What is going on, guys? I am the Toxic Penguin here today with a Dead by Daylight guide for the Doctor. It's not going to be so much gameplay orientated today. It's going to be focused on the Doctor's add-ons, because a lot of people do ask me, like, when it says, like, for order, slightly decreases the cooldown of Static Blast. What does slightly mean? And then Polished Electrode, moderately increases range of shock therapy. What does moderately mean? So we're just going to dig into the actual number crunching behind the add-ons and what exactly they all do, because some of them can get a bit confusing. Ignore my rank. This is literally recorded a couple of hours after rank reset, and I just haven't played the game yet. So we're going to jump into it. I'm going to say here and now, I'm going to split the add-ons into two categories. There's going to be the category of shock therapy related add-ons, and then the affliction based add-ons. So the first add-on we are going to have a look at is the Moldy Electrode. Slightly increases range of shock therapy. Now the base default range for shock therapy is 10 meters. Moldy Electrode increases that by 2 meters, making it 12 meters in length. Then you've got the Polished Electrode, moderately increases range of shock therapy. This increases it by 3 meters, so it makes it 13 meters instead of 10. And then we have the High Stimulus Electrode, which considerably increases range of shock therapy. Now, this one increases it by 4 meters to make it 14 meters. And these do stack. So if you put the High Stimulus with the Polished Electrode, you will have a 17 meter shock therapy, which is pretty lengthy. Pretty damn lengthy. So they do stack. So that should be noted that they do stack. Now, the next two add-ons we're going to look at are the tapes. So the first one is the Interview Tape. So the shock therapy special ability changes from a cone to a beam with a 24 meter range and a 2 meter width. So basically, instead of making sort of like a cone shape that it is at the moment, it makes it a rectangle, 2 meters wide, 24 meters long. So it makes it a lot longer than the base shock therapy, but a lot more narrow. So you get that extra distance at the cost of the width. So you have to be pretty damn accurate. And then the other tape, the Scrap Tape, shock therapy special ability changes from a cone to a ring, appearing 8 meters in front of the Doctor with an outer radius of 4.2 meters and an inner radius of 3 meters. Now, this one is a little funky. It looks pretty weird when you use it, but it just makes, instead of a cone, it just makes it like a ring. So it's a lot wider and it's a bit further out in front of you, so it's got a greater chance of actually hitting people. But that inner radius doesn't actually affect people. Just something you should know. And these two, the Interview Tape and the Scrap Tape, both stack with the electrodes. So the Interview Tape, it makes it longer. With the Scrap Tape, it makes the ring wider. So keep that in mind. This one, it makes it further. This one, it makes it wider. Now, the last add-on we're going to have a look at for the shock therapy based is the Iridescent Queen. Now, this one is a new one with the Doctor's rework. And basically, whenever the Doctor uses a shock therapy or static blast attack, so long as the survivor affected is not within 4 meters of another survivor, so they have to be greater than 4 meters apart, they will get what's known as a static charge. Now, whenever a survivor comes in contact with a survivor with a static charge, so say Meg's got a static charge, goes over to a Dwight, that Dwight will get hit with madness to the equivalent of a shock therapy, including triggering any afflictions related. So basically, it acts as a special shock therapy that's triggered by two survivors becoming too close to one another. A very, very strong add-on. So that's why I got 92 of them. They're pretty good. Now, the second set of add-ons I categorize as affliction add-ons, which is the Iridescent King, the Calm add-ons, Discipline, Order, and Restraint. Now, before I get into the individual add-ons themselves, you should know that there's 4 tiers of these add-ons. Carter's Notes, Class 3, Class 2, and Class 1. Now, each category, so Calm, Discipline, Order, and Restraint, have 3 different tiers. They'll have a Carter's Notes, a Class 2, and either a Class 3 or a Class 1, but not both. So, Discipline and Restraint have a Class 3 and not a Class 1, whereas Order and Calm have a Class 1, but not a Class 3. All of them are Class 2, all of them are Carter's Notes. Now, with each different category, doesn't matter which one, we'll look at Calm for this example. So the top half considerably increases your terror radius while Static Blast is ready, considerably decreases your terror radius while the Static Blast is on cooldown. This part is what I'm going to call the passive effect, and the part down the bottom, survivors with Madness status effect from the Affliction of Calm. So Madness 2 intermittently causes survivors to hear a distant illusionary terror radius, and in Madness 3 constantly causes survivor to hear a distant illusionary terror radius. That is the Affliction. The top part, so the passive effect, stacks between add-ons. So the considerably increases and considerably decreases from Calm's Carter's Notes, with the moderately increases and moderately decreases one from Class 2, they stack. But the bottom part, the Affliction, is the same across all tiers and does not stack with one another. So any that have like a time restraint, like Order does, they do not stack. It just stays the same across all tiers. So running both Calms will double the increase when Static Blast is ready to your Terror Raiders, and double the decrease when the Static Blast is on cooldown. But the bottom part with the heartbeats will not stack. So the first set of add-ons we're going to look at is Order. So Order is the one most people associate with fake pallets, and the Affliction is that broken pallets may appear to be replaced with illusionary pallets that persist until approach. A new illusionary pallet is generated at the location of a random broken pallet every 20 seconds, and the Doctor sees the aura of illusionary pallets. Doesn't matter what tier of Order you use, whether it's Carter's Notes, Class 2 or Class 1, that will stay consistent. Doesn't get better or worse with any tier. Then the passive effect is considerably decreases the cooldown of Static Blast for Carter's Notes, moderately decreases for Class 2, and slightly decreases the cooldown at Tier 1, or Class 1. Now, the standard, without any Order add-ons, the cooldown of Static Blast is 60 seconds. So from the moment you activate it, 60 seconds later, it'll be ready to go again. So Order reduces that by 6 seconds for considerably, 4 seconds for moderately, 2 seconds for slightly, so making the cooldown 54, 56, or 58 seconds respectively. And those do stack. So if you use Carter's Notes with Class 2, that will reduce the cooldown by 10 seconds, as considerably decreases is 6 seconds, moderately decreases is 4 seconds, add them together, it becomes a 50-second cooldown instead of 60. So the passive effect stacks, the Affliction does not. The next add-on we're going to have a look at is Discipline. So Discipline is Carter's Notes, Class 3, and Class 2. Now, the Affliction is that in Madness 2, while in a chase, survivors perceive an illusionary red stain in terror radius as though the Doctor were directly behind them. This effect persists for 6 seconds after the chase ends. And Madness 3, it just becomes constant regardless of whether it's a chase or not. And the Doctor also sees the illusionary red stain. So, no matter what tier you use, that will be a constant. Doesn't get better, doesn't get worse. Now, the passive effect for Class 2 slightly decreases the detonation delay of shock therapy, moderately decreases, or considerably decreases. So, what this does is that as you've played Doctor, you would notice that when you use a shock therapy, there is a delay between when you hit the survivor with it and when the scream and the whole blocking an action for 2.5 seconds process takes place. So there's that delay. This just removes that delay or lowers it down. So for Carter's Notes, it's 0.3 seconds. For class 3, it is 0.2. And for class 2, it is 0.1. Those do stack. So if you put Carter's notes and you put class 3 together, that reduces it by half a second, making it almost instantaneous. So those add-ons are very strong when paired up together, but by themselves are still pretty damn useful. The next add-on we're going to have a look at is Restraint. So the affliction is survivors with madness status effect suffer from the affliction of restraint. Moderately increases illusionary doctor duration, and the doctor can see the auras of illusionary doctors. Now, by default, when a survivor is in tier 2, that's when the fake doctors will appear. And it's only in tier 3 that the doctor will see the aura of these illusionary doctors staring at the survivor in tier 3. This makes it so that they last longer, so they last for 8 seconds. So 8 seconds the fake doctor's there, and no matter if it's into tier 2 or tier 3, the doctor sees that same illusion. So it can be a very good tracking perk. And then the passive effects, pretty self-explanatory. Reveals survivors' auras for 3 seconds when their madness level increases. For class 3, it's 2 seconds, and for class 2, it's 1 second. That does stack, so if you put Carter's notes and class 3 together, you see their aura for 5 seconds. Can be pretty damn handy when someone tears up, particularly if someone's using Calm Spirit, for example. So you still get the blood points and the doctor laugh that you have hit a survivor that's running Calm Spirit, but you don't get the scream icon pop up. This will show you their aura, so good job, Calm Spirit. You can't stop that. The last add-on we're having a look at is Calm. So the affliction in Madness 2 intermittently causes survivors to hear a distant illusionary terror radius, and in Madness 3 the effect is constant. Intermittently, so it will be active for 10 to 15 seconds, and the cooldown when it is inactive is 30 to 45. Completely random number. So you might get it for 15 seconds with a 30-second cooldown, or you might get it for 10 seconds with a 45-second cooldown. Completely random. That doesn't change no matter what tier you use of Calm. Now, the passive effect, which does stack between add-ons, is the increase to your terror radius while Static Blast is ready, or the decrease to your terror radius while Static Blast is on cooldown. So it's considerably for Carter's notes, it is moderately for class 2, and it is slightly for class 1. So by slightly, it increases or decreases by 4 meters. It is 6 meters for moderately, and it is 8 meters for considerably. So by default, the Doctor's terror radius is 32 meters. You use the Carter's notes version of Calm. When your Static Blast is ready, your terror radius is 40 meters. And Static Blast affects every survivor inside your terror radius that's not in a locker or on the ground. So it becomes 40 meters when it is active, and when it is on cooldown, it goes to 24 meters. So effectively a difference of 16 meters depending if it's ready or not. And these do stack. So you got 8 meters here, 6 meters there. That can make a huge terror radius when it's ready, and a small terror radius when it's on cooldown. The last add-on in the Afflictions category is the Iridescent King. So if you go to the Afflictions for Calm, Discipline, Order, and Restraint, which is the part of the add-on that does not stack between tiers and is the exact same between tiers, the Iridescent King applies them all in one add-on. It doesn't add the passive effect. So it doesn't change your terror radius while the Static Blast is ready on cooldown. It doesn't decrease the detonation delay of shock therapy. It doesn't decrease the cooldown of Static Blast, and it doesn't show survivors' aura when their madness increases. It's purely the affliction. Keep that in mind. So the Iridescent King, when a survivor is in tier 2, intermittently causes survivors to hear a distant illusionary terror radius. While in a chase, survivors perceive an illusionary red stain in terror radius as though the Doctor was directly behind them. The effect persists for 6 seconds after the chase ends in Madness 2 and is constantly active in Madness 3. Broken pallets may appear to be replaced with an illusionary palette that persists until approach. A new illusionary palette is generated at the location of a random palette every 20 seconds. And moderately increases illusionary doctor duration. The doctor sees illusionary red stains as well as the auras of illusionary doctors and illusionary palettes. So if you go to every add-on here, all the affliction add-ons, and look at their passive effect, it does the exact same as that. The only exception is with Calm. Regularly, in Madness 3, constantly causes survivors to hear a distant illusionary terror radius. That gets overridden with the Discipline version, where the illusionary red stain and terror radius is constantly active. It's just a better alternative. Because as a doctor, you would take the constant terror radius and red stain as though the doctor's standing right behind them, than you would just a faint terror radius at the edge of the terror radius, like the doctor's 32 meters away. So that is why Calm is the only slight difference. Otherwise, the afflictions are identical to their respective add-ons. So something I'm going to add here is some of the add-on pairings I really like. The one I use most frequently at the moment is Discipline and Order. Order, I love fake palettes. Because fake palettes can be so crucial, because if you see the aura of a fake palette disappear, they can only disappear if Survivor runs through them. So if you have one Survivor on the hook, 2 dead, and you're trying to find that last Survivor, and you see a fake palette disappear on the other side of the map, that gives you a very good indication where said Survivor will be. Plus, it can really screw up Survivors looping if they are under the impression that they have a palette right in front of them, just to realize that it was thrown down 3 generators earlier. And the cooldown of Static Blast is still pretty handy as well, but the main reason I use that is for the fake palettes. And then I run Discipline as well. The fake Red Stain and Heartbeat is amazing. It can really put survivors off, particularly in Tier 3 when they have no idea where you are. And the decrease in detonation delay of shock therapy is also wonderful. It really helps down. That can be the difference between a survivor getting a good window or dropping a pallet and then being stuck in no man's land. If I had to do another build, interview tape and preferably the high stimulus, that works well because that gives it a 28 meter range and a 2 meter width. So you run Monitor and Abuse, which is a doctor teachable, so you have it all the time. Just running that by itself, your terror radius is reduced by 8 meters when you're not in a chase. So that goes to 24 from 32. Your shock therapy is further than your terror radius is large. So you can shock survivors without there being a terror radius and really confuse them. Particularly if you run a perk like Discordance. So you know 2 of them on a generator. Just get just outside the terror radius of the doctor. Shock the generator. They won't have a clue what's happening. So that's a nice little combo. The 2 Ultra Res together are absurd. Very strong together. And 2 other good combos is not Calm. I want Discipline. The 2 Disciplines together. Just for the detonation delay of shock therapy, the decrease in that. Reduces it by half a second. Near instantaneous. It would be very hard for Survivor to perform an action as soon as they get hit. So that can really cut down on chases. Where they can't make a window or pallet because there is basically no delay between when they get hit with the shock therapy and when they can't do a thing. So these can be really strong together. And the other one is Carter's Notes Discipline with the high stimulus, extra range, plus the detonation delay cooldown. You get the extra range and the reduced time for them to interact with things. Plus the affliction is just great in general. But that's not to say Restraint's still a strong add-on. Calm is a very good add-on. But Discipline, aside from his Ultra Res, Discipline, in my opinion, would be his strongest add-on in the game. I hope this video helped you out. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments or join in the Discord, link in the description. I'm happy to answer your questions. And anyway, I've been the Toxic Penguin. Peace out.